like I'm actually going to save this at any point. But it says I have one viewer. I don't know which one it is. So if you had any questions about anything, I still got the deck in my hand. Or if you have any questions about anything else. I'm kind of an old school person, so if I don't understand something in chat, or if you're being a little rude or obnoxious or whatever, I don't go for that. I'm still learning this whole thing about live chatting. I guess this is going to be another episode, because I feel like I want to flip cards over. So whether it's for somebody who's in chat now or later, I'm going to have to set this up for episode 2. Spiritual Slant episode. Hashtag 2. Yeah. I don't know what to call this one. Episode 2. Messages. Okay. So this may not... I gotta update information. Where's my cursor? There it is. I gotta get a new mouse. There's so much lag on this thing. Alright. So, I will be tossing some I'll be turning over some cards because it feels like Spirit wants to say something more. So it'll be to not necessarily anybody who's here now. It could be. But it can also refer to somebody who's going to either pop in a while, or somebody who is going to watch this recording 5 months down the road. Who knows? Spirit's the one that knows. Alright. Ooh! The 10 card, which represents journeys. I took this when we visited Yellowstone one year. And this is Lamar Valley looking up towards the mountain. And I forget which mountain range that is. It could be the Teton. I don't know. I don't know which mountain range that is. But we're down in the valley. And so you get the valley. And then you get the higher elevation. And then you get the higher elevation. And then you get the big elevation. And there was a storm coming in, so there was clouds. And it rained. And then there was a double rainbow. It was gorgeous. And Lamar Valley is where wolves 10, 9, and 8 were situated. They were like part of the first group that came back to Yellowstone. So, spiritual journeys. It can refer to spirit. It can refer to physical journeys. 10 was a beautiful big wolf. The Arnold Schwarzenegger of wolves was one of the ways they referred to him. He was one of the first ones that were brought over. And they were hoping that he would mate with 9, and he did. 9 had a daughter. Don't remember what number she was. She might have been number 7. But he ended up mating with her, and then he was killed. So he had quite the journey. He was taken from Canada, where those wolves came from, and brought here, and he adapted, and he spawned the one of the first packs of puppies. Packs. My language is just terrible. So that card can represent physical journeys, like you're going on a trip, you're doing something in the physical plane, or it can be spiritual. It can be a spiritual journey. So whoever that one's for, I'm thinking it's more spiritual, because that's been the slant of this episode and the last episode. So I'm thinking it's a spiritual journey. You might be blessed with a vision. You might be blessed with a quest. You might get some insight to a situation or a predicament that you need spiritual guidance with. You need to focus on what Spirit says. You know, don't look at it with your physical eyes. You look at it with your spiritual eyes. Okay, what's really going on here? Look beneath the surface. So I think that's one message. And that was a message from 10. The first 14 cards in the deck are character cards, because they focus on the individual, not just the lesson, but it's a bigger picture, because it encompasses, it's just like me. Yes, I'm Mom, I'm Nana, I'm all these things, but in totality, there's different aspects to me. There's a better way to describe it, but I can't think of it now. But here's another character card. These characters are coming out. This is Big Sandy Wolf. She represents friendship coming out of nowhere. She has a sad story as well, but she was in the Big Sandy area, and I forget what state that is. And she was rescued. And she got sick, and one of the other wolves that were part of the rescue group was used to, they would use her blood to help somebody who had gotten extremely anemic for one reason or another. And that's why it's the friendship card, because this total stranger, that wolf just was right there to assist this one. It's also, the organization they were with was badly managed. I discovered later. And so there's a bit of a taint to it for me. But that doesn't negate Sandy, Big Sandy Wolf. And that doesn't negate her. We all have struggles and strifes that we go through, and that's no different. So here's another message for somebody. Growth. In the last episode, the Heights card came up, and that was one of the new pups that were at the Columbus Zoo. And the growth card shows all three of them in varying stages of evolvement. One's close, one's not quite as close, one's off to the side. So it's growth. It just depends on which wolf jumps out, and to me it's the one closest. So there's a spurt of growth happening. How it relates to you, I don't know. If it's significant for you, you'll feel it. Try not to project what you want it to mean, because that will distort it. And I've done readings for people, and I know what that means. And most of the time, I let you receive it the way you think. But making it fit a pattern that you want it to fit doesn't do you any good, because it's not accurate. It's not true. It's not right. There have been times where I will do readings and for the same person over and over and over again. And they're looking for the same answer. And I will say, well, this has to happen first, and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, they're back asking again. And finally, it's like, if they're not going to listen to what Spirit is saying, then I'm wasting my breath and I'm wasting Spirit's time. Spirit's going to have to deal with that person in another way because they're not paying attention to me. And what I'm perceiving and what I'm receiving and passing along. And that, that's just the way it is. I can't take offense to it. I did it first because that's basically insulting Spirit and insulting me. And I've had to get over it, basically. I can only be the messenger. What you do with it is up to you. And if you're not going to listen, and if you're not going to take it to heart, that's on you. I did my part. And that's all I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for what I say and do. I'm responsible for passing along what I perceive, what messages they're giving me. And that's where my responsibility ends. And I guess I have to say something like, this is for entertainment purposes only. Patience. Patience is the next card that comes up. It's a message to somebody. Oh, I keep forgetting. You can see the 3 wolves in the front. But do you see the 1 wolf in the back? Most of the time, you didn't see all 5 wolves at once. There's one card that represents play, and you can see all 5 wolves then. They're all, wrestling with each other, so it's hard to, tell who's who. But that was probably the only time that I saw all 5 of them together, because what we didn't know, one of the wolves I call Wild Thing, but that's not really who Wild Thing was. Wild Thing was the one that was always off in the back by the fence, and was never really a true part of the pack unless it was playtime. Then they would play. But most of the time she was left to her own devices. And that's because she was taken out of the wild as a pup and confiscated, and then got in the system, and that's how she ended up being at the zoo. She'd had enough exposure to human beings that she didn't fit anymore. And maybe that's part of her message. For those of us who don't feel we fit, and I have felt that way because my viewpoints and stuff are a little different than everybody else's. My life experiences are a little different than everybody else's. And I'm going to counseling, just straight counseling. She's a spiritual being, but, it's just straight counseling. For that reason, that I was always on the outside looking in. And unfortunately with Wild Thing, that's how it was. When the wolves came in, they had descriptions with their name. And so they assumed this was this person, this was that, this was this wolf, that was that wolf. And come to find out, let's see, it would be Reba. Was it Reba? One of them suddenly was being attacked by the other wolves, and come to find out she was in kidney failure. Maybe that's their way of humane, what do you call it when you put somebody down, person-wise? Euthanasia. It would probably behoove a pack in the wild to, their senses are so acute, they would know if somebody was dying, and it would be the humane thing to just take them out in a vicious way. Don't ask me, I'm still learning. But anyway, Wyatt they knew because he was the only male. Then there was Reba, Gina, LP, and Wild Thing. Now, they thought one of the other wolves was Wild Thing, and Wild Thing was actually the one that was always off by itself. So for the longest time, I thought the one by itself was LP. And then they found out who LP was. So, okay, well, that's not LP. So, you know, it was a hit or miss type thing. So, whichever one that is in the background, let's see if I can figure it out. I think that's who I used to call Wild Thing. The one that I called Wild Thing, no, that's Wild Thing in the front because she's got a mark on her back. That might be Gina back there. It's Wyatt. Yeah, it's Wyatt, Wild Thing, which isn't her name. LP, which I don't think is her name, and then Gina in the back. I think Gina was the only one that, Wyatt and Gina were the only ones that ended up being the ones that I knew by their names. So I go by how I remember them, and it's not necessarily the way they were. Okay, one more. What was that one? Patience? I'm so observant. Yeah, you got to wait for things to evolve, to reveal themselves. The truth of the situation. I knew it one way, but the truth of the situation was different. So that's the message of that one. Final message. Speaking of Wild Thing, Wild Thing represents enthusiasm. And this was one of the later pictures of her because she was just about solid white. She has a black, kind of like a V on her back, part of her saddle. She represents enthusiasm because she was the most bouncy, into everything, inquisitive wolf of them all. Gina was pretty laid back. She spent most of her time on top of the den. Wyatt, of course, was always prowling around and then surveilling his kingdom. LP, or Reba, she was a calm one. When she was alpha of the group, she checked on everybody, made sure everybody was okay. She was the peacemaker. Matter of fact, that's her message, is peacemaker. She's kind of the one in the middle, the one that knows the good and the bad, the one that balances things out. Wild Thing, that's probably why they called her Wild Thing, because she acted like a wild thing. She was all over the place. I don't remember for sure what her name eventually evolved to be. It was either Reba or LP. Or Gina. So Wild Thing represents enthusiasm because she was. But you can take your enthusiasm too far. Because when she was the alpha, her and Reba, or LP, they alternated being the alpha. And Wyatt more or less let the girls do what they wanted to do. So when Wild Thing thought well, it's my turn to be alpha female, when she would take over, she was rough. She would lay into Wild Thing something fierce. And that was the one that was always off to herself. When she was near the rest of the group, she got reprimanded for something. I don't remember if I'm aware of what it was that she was doing, that she got reprimanded. Wild Thing came over and just laid into her and just scolded her and rebuked her. And so she's, cowering on the ground, and Wild Thing did what she did, and then she walked away. Well, coming up right behind her is Reba, LP, the peacemaker. And she would come and she'd go, "You okay? You okay? Okay. All right, you just stay there. You know, watching her body language. She was very caring. It was like, okay, now you know you shouldn't have done that. So you stay there, you do what she said, but it's going to be okay. And then she would go on. She never contradicted what the instructions from the alpha was. But she did her thing her way. And that's how when she was the alpha, that's how she ruled, was with a gentle hand, a gloved hand, however you want to put it. All right, one more. Balance. That came up in my last reading. Which way? That way. Yeah. I believe that's Wild. Yeah, that's Wild Thing. You see the dark stripe on one of them's back. It'd be, you're looking at it, it would be the one on the left. That's Wild Thing. That's how I could tell it was her, because I would watch for that mark. And I believe that's Gina on the other side. But it's balance. And it's just a reminder, you know, you've got to keep things in balance. Too much of this is not good for you. Too much of that is not good for you. Not enough of one is not good for you. If you're focused so much on work, you're not taking time to rest and play, you're out of whack. That it's not a healthy way to be. So it's a reminder to do things in a balanced way. God says all things in moderation. Wolf says keep it balanced, because in order to survive, you need to do all three things: rest, play, work. Okay? So that's good, something good for even us to think about it. Okay, well, that's it for me. Again, for now. I just felt like I needed to do more. I wasn't quite done. So that takes care of episode 2. So I hope you're enjoying A Spiritual Slant. If you have any questions, if you want me to throw a card for you sometime, just let me know, and I can do that. I'm broadcasting from Nana's Place on Twitch TV, but everything goes to YouTube. So if you miss something and want to look at something that's already happened, you can find it on YouTube under Tea and Talk Time. Because that was the original thing. But these episodes will be in with that. So, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking me out. Like I said, if there's anything I can do for you, you just let me know. So until the next time we get together, you take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.